definitely creating content that helps people is really the solution.
What really works is building a community, consistently doing events like webinars, and producing content specifically for certain categories.
You earn that raise and you earn that job.
Welcome to Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to Future Fuzz, the digital marketing podcast. Today on the show, we're joined by Ben Lilly. He's co-founder and managing director of a consultancy that helps luxury and finance brands connect with wealth audience through digital media. Ben and his team offer a full range of consultancy services spanning from creative, paid, owned, and earned. That's not written very well. I'll have to do this again later. All delivered by a handpicked network of senior UK industry experts. Their model is lean and effective. You can get a high caliber team that will scale quickly, bring projects together seamlessly, keep costs low, and only charge for the support that you actually need. With deep experience in how high net worth audiences consume digital media, Ben's team consistently delivers strategic, high quality output tailored at premium content for financial and luxury brands. Ben, thank you very much for joining the show today.
Thanks very much for having me, Justin. It's great to be here.
So, Ben, please tell us about your story as now an agency co-founder. You told me when we met personally that you said it was something you wish you'd done earlier, but maybe you can tell listeners about your story.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in the agency game a long time. I've run in large agencies and also smaller boutique agencies, both in the UK and overseas. Recently, I joined a company called Brands, which was probably the largest luxury digital marketing agency in the world at the time, which I helped to grow and then sell to a company called Crowd. Crowd are a large multinational agency. And I, so I've been a long time in the agency game. Most recently, so in 2022, I took an exit after the sale of Verb to Crowd. I took an exit and head up Giant Leap Digital, which is what I'm running today. We are specialists, as you just mentioned in your intro. We're specialists in the luxury and finance space, and we help brands to connect with high net worth audiences. That's the principle of what we're about. But I recognise that typically things should be done better, and I wanted to create an agency that could solve two challenges. One was around providing better support for clients. I could see often agencies, and this was across the board, all the agencies I've worked at, they go out and pitch and they sell a good story. And they normally have the senior team there to do that. But, they win a client, they bring it in, and then the problem they face immediately is that they don't have the resource to be able to service that account. So they turn around to whoever's got some spare capacity and they say, look, can you help work on this account? And those people typically are more junior in the team, and they get lumbered with this, new shiny account that they've got to make work. But they don't really have necessarily the experience or the background or the right pedigree to be able to support that project. And so after about 3 months of running with it, clients get frustrated that they're not getting the service level that they've promised in the pitch. They get angry. Once you start to enter a downward spiral, it's really hard to then salvage an account. People get frustrated, annoyed, and 6 months down the line, clients are looking to leave. So I wanted to solve that challenge. I thought that was a poor way of being able to service people. I thought that there was better ways that you could deliver value to the client. But also I wanted to provide better service to our teams. I wanted our teams to be happier in their work. I could see that people were getting burnt out, people were getting stressed, people were running long hours because the way that agencies typically work, this kind of, we'll win it and then we'll just work out how to solve it once we've won the account. It means that people that are there having to work long hours to try and, backfill, the support that's needed. And it just meant that you're getting unhappy and burnt out teams. So the model that we put in place is one, to give better support to clients. And that means through senior teams. We brought in senior people to help build out projects. We brought in the right support. So no matter what the marketing challenge is that people are facing, we feel the right team to solve that challenge, not just whoever's got their capacity. Yeah, it means, and through our distributed model, we have a point of presence in London. We have a point of presence in Mayfair. So our clients can come and see us and, still have office space there. But all our work is done remotely. And it means that our teams have a higher standard of living, a higher quality of life. They can do the school run, they can do bath time, they can be there for the school play. With him, we don't actually, we encourage our team not to run a clock. We say you can work whenever you want. If you want to work through the weekend and take Monday, Tuesday back, fine.
Let's dive into that one, actually. Yeah, that's a key one, because there's a key difference to the way that you built the agency, and you touched upon it there, is that you work 100% remotely. You give people the flexibility, which is of course important, but senior people in the teams, you've built the business around employing people that have experience, they have a good track record, and then they're known to deliver. Tell us more about what you've discovered by using that as a strategy to build a business.
So everybody that we employ are, as I said, senior in their roles. They're market leaders in their particular field of expertise. They are more expensive to employ because of that skill set that they've got. But we believe that we should empower people to, be adults, to run their own schedules, to run their own time. We don't need to nanny them. We don't need to sit there and get them to fill time cards in every 5 minutes, which agencies always do. And the problem with that is, if you ask somebody to do a 37-hour week and you say, can you please fill in a time card? Lo and behold, everybody does a 37-hour week, 37.5-hour week. But that doesn't mean that they're being productive. It doesn't equate to being productive. But if you empower people and you say to people, look, this is completely over to you. This is your project. This is your responsibility. You can run this how you want, and you can run your clock how you want. We don't care, we don't care when you deliver, as long as you deliver to a high standard and you deliver on time. How you get those is completely up to you. It empowers people, and we've actually seen greater productivity from our team. So when we have tracked time cards for people, on average, we're getting about 42 hours a week from people. And that's productive time. It's not that they're sitting there filling in a time card because they've been told to fill in a time card. They're doing it because they've got a project on their hands and they want to deliver good quality work. So actually,
you've given them the freedom there, and then they've repaid you back, would you say? Do you feel as though that you're not nannying them, you're giving them the freedom, the responsibility, and helping them effectively be empowered, and they deliver more?
Correct. 100%. Yeah. And so this wins out in both ways. One, people then get a higher standard of living, better quality of life, better time with their families. But our clients get better projects. They get faster delivery. They get a higher standard of caliber of work. So it wins on both sides. So the essence of what we set out to do at the beginning is being delivered. This model is working for us.
How would it work then later, do you feel, if you needed to bring on more junior members in the team, bring up some talent through the ranks? You're solving that problem there as well, aren't you? Because you've got a more senior team already established. And if you need to bring through more junior talent, you could do so easily.
We can. We have got some junior people in the company, but none of them are client facing. So where we are using it for projects, they are helping with in-house activation that we need. We've got a wonderful lady who's joined us around December time, a lady called Hannah. She's straight out of uni. She did a master's in marketing, but she just left university. She's supporting us with our in-house marketing efforts. So she's running our Instagram channel. She set that up from scratch, and the nice thing is, because we've got a senior team around us, we can lean on them, their expertise, but we then hand over to Hannah to do some of the execution work. So she can do the heavy lifting, and then we get the seniors in to point her in the right direction. But I wouldn't, nothing against Hannah, I wouldn't put her on a client account. I don't think our clients would value that, and I don't think Hannah would be ready to deal with that either. But as she grows in her career, and as she spreads her wings, then we probably can bring her across to some clients' accounts in the future. But we would do it in a very careful manner. I wouldn't want to jeopardize the quality of what we're delivering for our clients. And it's because we're in this luxury space, it's absolutely demanded by our clients that we deliver to the same high standards that they do. So, and if we fall foul of that, it gets noticed very quickly. So we do hold ourselves to a high standard.
Let's touch on the type of clients that you work with. And something you just mentioned there is that, of course, are working in luxury, targeting high net worth individuals, and you're also working in the finance sector as well. What are some of the key lessons that you've learned over the years as an agency leader with the things to really focus on with campaigns or with any strategy, and the things that are not important?
It depends on the client. I mean, we have, as I said, the thing that galvanizes all our clients together, that they want to access high net worth audiences. And whether you're a finance brand and a private bank or family office, or you're a super yacht company or private jet company, the ask is the same. You still want to access this global audience of high net worth individuals, and you want to talk to them in a language that resonates with them. So that means that we focus a lot on the caliber of the creative that we pull together, the caliber of the messaging, but we also spend a lot of time thinking about who they are and what their needs are. So, and I suppose that's where we differentiate ourselves as an agency. We do understand these wealth audiences in a great amount of detail. At a broad brush, we kind of split them into 5 categories: affluent, wealthy, high net worth, ultra high net worth, and then billionaires. But we then look at those audiences in a much more granular manner to say, okay, what do we know about these people? What are their interests, hobbies, likes, companies that they're running? What's their wealth status? We look into them at a granular level, and then build out projects that meet those needs and those wants, those desires that they have. I think the wealth market is changing a lot. We have something called the Great Wealth Transfer that's going on at the moment. So there's something like $65 trillion worth of wealth that's being handed down from the last generation to the next generation over the next 10 years. And with that, it means that tastes and desires for what people buy with their money is changing. And that goes from everything. If you think about people that, perhaps historically people had investments, they bought stocks and shares, and they bought them in petrochemical companies and cigarette companies and defense companies. These are typical investments that have always driven high returns. But the next generation are looking at it from a different lens. They want to have ethical standings in terms of what they're investing in. So they're moving their portfolios into greener, sustainable, investments, for example. But this also, spreads into everything. The last generation chose, to show their wealth off by buying art, and they would typically buy some of the old masters. They'd have a Rembrandt on their wall or something like that. The next generation, are not interested in that at all. They would rather have a watch collection or trainer collection or
Or a Banksy.
Yeah.
Well, there's one there. There's a Banksy right behind me there, which we got for £5 at Bristol Library. That's a good investment.
Rather than you. So you're not.
Well, yeah, I'm not high net worth yet. No, but the wealth, the transfer of wealth, and how luxury brands and high finance brands need to think about that is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Because you've hit the nail on the head there. If you are working with an organization that wants to be forward thinking, and they're thinking, okay, that our original customer is unfortunately moving on into another state of life, they're effectively, that whole generation is changing. The wealth gets transferred to a generation that has different ideals and different ways that they want to do things. And the Rembrandt might become, it's not crazy, right? But it might become a pair of trainers, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Because Nike trainers are like worth thousands and thousands and thousands. And you wouldn't necessarily say that that's a luxury brand, but it is a source of wealth and it is an investment. And I think you had an amazing story about car ownership as well.
Yeah. There's a young lad called Harry who runs a business called Autofolio.
We don't have to mention any brand names, by the way.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a business, but he's only 23, I think. But he's a really bright guy, and he's worked out that when people are investing in cars, then typically people buy it with their heart. They say, oh, do you know what? I've now accumulated this wealth. I really want to, buy my Aston Martin or buy my Ferrari. and it's, the pin-up that they had on their wall as a kid, they suddenly have the money to be able to go out and buy it. The Harrys turned around and said, look, actually, what you really want to do is you want to turn your investment into an asset class. This is something that should actually appreciate in value, not depreciate in value. And if you're clever with your choices of car ownership, they can do that. And in fact, Harry and his company specialize in helping people to understand what cars they should buy, because over a 5-year term, you want that asset to go up. And cars, actually, if you get it right, can go up by a huge, huge value if you pick the right vehicle. So yeah, you get the fun of driving it and owning it and having that pedigree. But if you choose the right car, it also goes up in value as well. So yeah, it's a really interesting model that he's started to build out. And as I say, he's a young lad just starting out in his career, but he's hit on something really, really clever.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Yeah.
Future Fuzz is sponsored by SalesSource, B2B pipeline management and sales growth for your business.
I just wanted to go back to talking about art for a second. We also have some interesting thoughts around how this great wealth transfer is impacting the way in which art is operating. We think about some of these old masters that were being bought. If somebody has an art collection of, say, £500 million, then they typically, or historically, what they would have done is they would have typically housed it with some sort of partnership with a gallery or a museum, and they would build a wing, and then they would put their art collection in this wing, and and wonderful, fantastic people could come and see it. It's on loan to the gallery. Everybody wins out. But with this great wealth transfer that's happening, and the next generation wanting to go off and buy trainers or watches or whatever they want to do with their wealth, they're saying, do you know what? We want to sell that collection. We don't want to have that anymore. That's not part of what we represent. That causes a problem, right? Because you've got several things going on there. One, you've got a legacy issue. The person who's built this art collection wanted it to be a legacy. They wanted that collection to be on show to the general public as their legacy. But you're now unraveling their whole purpose of their, what they wanted to leave behind. You've then got problems with the galleries themselves because they don't have the money necessarily to buy the art off them, or if they have the money to buy them, then that means that they're sacrificing something else to go and fund these very expensive art collection. And then you're breaking up an art collection, and some of this stuff will go into private ownership, and it will be hidden away in a vault for the next 100 years. So there are real complications at the moment going on with this wealth transfer in terms of how you respect the legacy that's been built, but yet give the next generation the funds that they want to go off and invest in the way that they see fit.
It's really going to be very interesting what happens over the next couple of years. And just remind me again, so how much wealth will be transferred? How many trillions of dollars?
It's about 65 trillion.
In the next period of how many years?
10 years. I mean, it's already happening, but in the next 10 years or so, it will be
absolutely incredible. Yeah. I read a very interesting stat. I don't know how valid it is. I'm pretty sure I read it in The Economist, so I'm pretty sure it's valid. It was that by 2036, in most European countries, there'll be a huge population shift, which will mean the freeing up of a lot of property on the market, and property prices will fall by 4%. So if you're looking to move to a large property, 2036 is the year to look out for on average.
I'll hold off on buying my mansion then.
Absolutely. Right. Ben, your take on the UK market right now for agencies?
I think it's really tough. Everybody that I know that's in the marketing game, one way or another, whether agency side or client side, is finding it tough. Lots of people I know are either going to be made redundant or have been made redundant, or their budgets are being slashed. And it is a tough market for people out there at the moment. I think this is actually reflected in the way that our agency is structured. We actually don't have any UK clients at all at the moment. Not one. They're all international. All the funds that we run with are for international, and mainly European and American companies actually are the ones that we deal with. And it's a shame.
What's your split between European and US companies that you work with?
About 50-50, actually. And in fact, everything that we're pitching for at the moment is all international as well. Got a big pitch going on in Dubai at the moment, and There's another one going on in Austria. There's another one going in Switzerland. So yeah, it's all international work that we're servicing.
If you were to open an office internationally, where would you go next?
The markets that we're looking at the moment actually are it's Dubai is a key one for us, and I think that would help us to service the Middle East. There's a lot of wealth going on and investment in projects, particularly in Saudi Arabia. People talk about the NOM project that they're building out there at the moment. There's a huge amount of money being spent on that. But equally, we're looking, because of the market that we are with, luxury brands. There's going to be a shift in terms of brands and how brands are investing, and a lot of Chinese companies are either buying luxury products or building luxury brands themselves. So we're thinking about opening an office in Hong Kong to service that market, and that's something we're looking at quite seriously at the moment. So for us, the next step will be probably the Middle East, and then probably Hong Kong is another step. So by 2030, America will be outstripped by China in terms of the largest investment in luxury brands. And so it's a massive change, actually. At the moment, I think China rates number 3 or 4, but by 2030, it'll be the largest market for luxury goods.
That's a seismic shift, isn't it? That's an absolutely massive shift. The Chinese have already shown in the past appetite for luxury brands, and also German cars, for example, German and Italian cars. In many cases, the car market is changing rapidly in China, but the luxury is that's something entirely different. So, would you say that the European eyes are very much focused on the Chinese market going forward?
Yeah. At the moment, about 60% of all luxury goods are made in Europe. I think about 60 or 70% of all luxury goods are made in Europe. But actually, the markets that they service is America and Asia. Those are the two key elements where they service them. The Chinese are doing something interesting. So one, they're buying a lot of luxury brands. They've created wealth, and they want to own a Rolex. They want to have the Hermes handbag and what have you. So that's well known. But equally, China is now developing their own luxury brands. They are building out their own pedigree and their own status with their own brands. And actually, what they want to do with that is they want to export it to Europe and America.
Right.
So it's going to be flip reverse, and by 2030, we'll start to see that shift happening. And again, for us to ignore that as a marketing company would be naive. Like, we can help both brands to get into China and brands that want to come out of China to service that market.
Just look at what's happened with BYD bringing cars over into the European market, and they're produced at a third cheaper to produce, and they're just as good. And my neighbour's got one around the corner, and how about?
Did you hear about BYD?
Incredible.
Did you hear about BYD yesterday?
No.
But BYD have now announced that they've produced, or by next month, they're producing a car that can recharge within 5 minutes.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I heard something new today.
Yeah,
but I think they'll change it.
Game changer, and it's got everybody looking over their shoulder. So BMW, for example, have said that the biggest challenge they face is batteries. The car companies of the future are going to be the ones that can create the strongest, most reliable, easiest to charge batteries. And they're looking over their shoulder. We've got BYD, who's a much, much smaller, newcomer to the market, who've now developed a battery that can charge in 5 minutes. I mean, that's unbelievable. The problem they actually face is the fact that they haven't got the infrastructure in Europe to be able to service that. So in Europe it won't work, but in China they can. Like, a car can do it to a station, and it can recharge in 5 minutes.
Amazing stuff. Ben, we're almost at the end of the show. I just wanted to ask you, for those, if you'd like to tell those listening, that what would be some of your greatest tips and greatest piece of advice when they go out to found their own agencies and grow their own agencies? Because you've been successful. You've had a business acquired and you've started Giant Leap Digital. If you could tell your young self, give your young self a piece of advice when you started out on these journeys, what would that be?
I'd say don't wait. I think I waited too long to set this agency up. What I'm doing today, I should have done this a long time ago. even though I helped Third to grow and sell up, it wasn't my agency. I was just the managing director of it. I should have probably, taken this jump sooner. I think that stars have to align. I was very fortunate. I don't have commitments. I don't have a family that I have to worry about. I mean, I'm married. I've got a wife. I don't have young children. I've got a reasonable mortgage that I have to service. It's not ridiculous. But I think if you've got other commitments around you, it makes it much harder. The first 2 years of setting this agency up are really tricky. You have to have nerves to keep the thing going, and you have to be confident in your belief and that you've done the right thing and that you are pushing in the right direction, because there will be storms, there will be difficult times where you will question yourself. But I think you need to make sure that your product, your proposition is good and that the market can respond well to whatever that proposition might be. And you've got to stay the course. I was listening to a guy the other day, and he said, always set up a business in a recession and when the markets are difficult, because when it turns a corner and the good times come around again, you'll be in a much, much stronger place. But if you set it up in the good times and then suddenly a recession hits, you don't know what to do, and suddenly you don't know how to deal with the pain. So, I've been very fortunate that, we've been running this now for nearly 3 years. It has been tough economic times around us, but we have created a proposition that is resonating with people and resonating with businesses. We're growing very fast. I mean, albeit that it's all international work that we're winning, but we found something that is resonating with the audience that we were going after. So, I'd say don't wait, get on and do it, and just be confident and have the backing to make sure that you don't fall over in the first couple of years.
Brilliant advice, Ben. Thank you very much for joining the podcast today.
Thank you, Justin.
Thanks for tuning in and making the choice to listen to this podcast. If you liked what you've heard today, please don't forget to subscribe.